8 years ago, I suffered a spinal cord injury of the C4 to 5 vertebrae and also acquired a brain injury from my accident. And the physical part of my disability is the obvious part. I am in a wheelchair, and that's easy for other people to see. But the part of my accident and my injury that other people can't see quite as easily is the brain injury aspect of my disability. And in this week's video, I wanted to go through everything that I have trouble with having the brain injury. I damaged the temporal lobe, which is on either side of the brain, just about here and here, and also a few other parts of my brain, but I will get into that further into this video. The main functions of the temporal lobe is memory, speech, perception, and reading, all of which I have problems with. The problems I have with perception is if I'm watching a movie or reading a book that has a lot of different characters and a big plot line, basically, everything that is involved that links everything in the story together, I find difficult to put in my head. This is actually very hard to describe. So to put it in context, have you ever watched the movie The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? That movie is very confusing to me because of all of the plot lines and twists and everything that links the storyline together. And that is what I find difficult with perception of my brain. And also the memory problem doesn't help with that. Now, I have an extremely good long-term memory, but my long-term memory starts before my accident. So my earliest memory was when I was about a year and a half, and my biggest, very, very clear memory is when I was 2.5 years old. And I can basically remember everything up until when I was 17, and I can remember everything that happened after that, but it's a little bit more cloudy in my memory to remember what happened within the last 8 years rather than what happened in the 17 years before that. Another thing that I find very difficult, both with the perception and a few other parts that I find difficult with my brain injury, if I am in a small room, say there is 4 people in the room, me included, and 2 people are talking to each other and then the other person is talking to me, I find it very difficult to be able to acknowledge and understand what the person is talking to me about. And like I said, with the perception thing, this is very difficult to explain. Because of the injuries to my brain, I find it very difficult to even explain this to somebody. To put it in context, if I had somebody on the phone and they were sitting in the bedroom having a conversation, I would not be able to talk to you. I would not be able to have this conversation with the camera and explain all of this to you because basically my brain just fries. The second I have a lot of people talking to me or a lot of people in the same room, I find it very difficult to comprehend what a person is talking to me about. If I am in a shopping center and there is a lot of people everywhere and everybody's talking at the same time, I do not find that being a problem. With my brain injury, I also had damage to the optical nerve in the brain. And that is the part that is on the other side of my eye, the inside of my eye. So I am half blind on the outside of my right eye. So if I am looking directly ahead, there is very limited vision as to what I can see on this part. An optometrist has told me that there is basically no chance that I will get vision back in the blind eye of my eye. But gradually I have noticed that I am beginning to see certain things out of this side of my eye. What I do find slightly fascinating to me with the blind side of my eye, my hearing has become extremely sensitive. Now, if there is a lot of people in one room talking, I cannot distinguish between every single person's voice. But if I'm on my way downtown, I am very, very aware of the traffic and people walking and everything that is going on. And something happened once when I was on my way downtown, and this was slightly frightening. Now, I was almost at the end of the block, and I could hear someone behind me walking, and I could tell that they were wearing thongs or for Americans, flip-flops, and I thought they were literally right behind me. I turned around and they were at the start of the block. Now this scared the crap out of me because I swore that they were right behind me. I have a blind friend, his name is Dean, and he experiences the same thing. Because he can't see, his hearing is extremely sensitive and he can hear from a long distance away. The problems I have with reading, okay, I do read books, but it takes me a lot longer to read a book than it would for another person. I'm currently reading the book that is right there. But the problems I have is if I am seeing a word, it might be a simple word like they and this and then, all of those words. I find them easy, but sometimes I have trouble putting the word in my head. I might know what the word is. I will know what it means. I know what it sounds like, but putting all of this together into my head is quite difficult. Sometimes I might get stuck on a word, and it might be a very, very simple word, but I find it very difficult to acknowledge what the word is and put it in the sentence that I'm reading. But when I start getting into the storyline and start understanding what the story is about, generally I'm reading a lot faster, but not to the extent that other people read. Now, I don't find reading a text message difficult, but if it's a long message, like very, very long messages, I find they take a little bit longer for me to read. But if it's a simple message, I don't have any problems with reading that. And I don't have any problems in telling a story, like replying to the messages that I get on YouTube. I don't find that difficult because me telling a story or me saying something is not the problem. Reading the story back is the problem because I have problems remembering what I had said. Not that I forget halfway through a conversation what I was just talking about, but you would be surprised how often that actually happens, that I will be halfway through a conversation and then I would be like, oh wait, what was I talking about? But I'm pretty sure that a lot of other people have this problem too. With my brain injury, yes, there are many, many, many cons to my brain injury and also my spinal cord injury, but there are a few positives to having a brain injury. One of them being the extremely sensitive hearing. Now, this is very, very fun if I want to mess with someone. Now, one time my brother was here and he was outside having a conversation on the phone. Now, he was in the driveway and this was quite far away from where I was in my unit. And he was having a conversation and he came in after he had finished the conversation and I told him everything that he was talking about. Now, this wasn't just him talking. I could hear from the other side of the phone. I could hear the other person talking and his phone was not on loudspeaker. Now, this just confused him a lot and got him a little bit paranoid as well, because my brother tends to be slightly paranoid. Another thing with the blind eye, when I get children staring at me, I do a weird thing with my eye. Now, I have shown you this before in my 5 freakiest talents video. I can make my right eye go cross-eyed, but my left eye stay normal. Now, this is quite creepy when kids are staring at me and I just stare back and slowly do that to them. Some kids they go up and they look at me like, what's wrong with you? And I tell them, I didn't eat my vegetables. And that scares the shit out of him. I hope this video has been educational for you, and I'm sorry if it has been slightly confusing. It has been pretty confusing for me to explain all of this stuff to you, so I hope you can understand. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and I will see you next week.